Hello, and welcome to this tutorial about how to revise for your works cited and your citations using MLA format. So the first thing I need you to do is take a look at the beginning of your paper. The entire thing should be in 12 point, Times New Roman, including your header at the top that has your last name and your page number. There should be no empty lines. The entire thing is double spaced, but there are no extra spaces anywhere. Not between the date and the title, not between your paragraphs. Instead, you should have one extra space in between everything, and you should achieve that by setting the formatting to double spacing. So you should have your first and last name on the first line, my name on the second line, the name of your class on the third line, the date in MLA format on the fourth line, which is the day, the month, and the year with no commas. Then you should have a title that's not given any extra recognition except for that it's centered and it's on a line by itself. No bold, no underline, no quotation marks, no increased font, just there it is. And then you should make sure that every single paragraph is indented one tab. I shouldn't have to tell high school and college students this, but for some reason I do. So if nobody's ever told you, let me be the first. To indicate a new paragraph, you should hit tab once, not twice, but just once. So I want you to pause the video and go through your paper and make sure that you have met these very simple criteria because they are worth some points. Okay, let's look at your works cited page. This is what your works cited page should look like. Number one, it should have the words works cited with a capital W and a capital C at the tippy top of your page. This should be centered. Then I need you to make sure that your entries are not centered. Instead, they are using hanging indent. So in your classroom materials, I provided you a link for how to achieve this hanging indent. If you can't find it, it may be easiest just to Google how to do hanging indent in whatever format you're using, whether that's Pages or Word or Google Docs or whatever. The information's out there. I've given you links, but if you can't find mine, just Google on your own. You also need to have this page double spaced. It should not have extra spaces in between each entry, and it should be in alphabetical order. Notice I have an E and a G and a J and an S, so it should be in alphabetical order by the name, the first word of the works cited. It should not look like this. There's lots of things wrong with this works cited page. It's not in alphabetical order. It goes U, G, S, A. It's not double spaced. It does have the hanging indent, so that's at least a little something, but it should look like this instead. So pause the video, go through your works cited page, and make sure that you are good to go. Okay, the next thing we're going to check is your citations. So what's the rule for a citation generally? The general rule for a citation is that it should use the first word or words of your works cited entry. Your citation is just an abbreviation of this entire thing. So what I need you to do is look at the first word of your works cited entry and do a Command F. Put that first word in there. You should find it one of two places. You should have either used the first word of your works cited entry by including the entire title or the author's name in the sentence, or you should have the first word or two of the title, the first noun phrase, or the author's last name in a citation at the end of your sentence. So what we're going to do first is pause the video and do a Command F to find all the corresponding citations that you have. And then we're going to check for mistakes. Like for example, on this person's paper, the first word of the works cited entry, which I have down here, is Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this person correctly has Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the citation. That lets the reader know that this information came from this source. And you can easily look for the first word of the universal in the use on your works cited page. I don't know why students want to put something random sometimes from the middle of the works cited. If you have 3 or 17 or 47 entries on your works cited page, nobody wants to have to look through the entire works cited page to try to find that random something. So you need to put the first word of your works cited in there so that it is easy to find. Now this one does have a mistake. You need to mimic the works cited exactly in your citation. And universal declaration would be plenty because that's your first noun phrase. So you don't have to put the entire title. The MLA format doesn't want it to get long and kind of chunky in the way of your reader's viewing eye. But because this is in quotation marks here, this should also be in quotation marks here. The citation should be parentheses, quotation mark, universal declaration, quotation mark, parentheses. So I want you to pause the video, and as you go through your entire works cited and you're checking for each of these, make sure that your citation includes the first word and make sure it correctly punctuates the very same in your citation as it is in your works cited. As you are doing so, you may have found that you didn't have, for example, as I was checking this person's paper, I looked for Damask in their paper and it was nowhere to be found. So that either means that this student did one of two things. Either they didn't cite it by accident and they've accidentally plagiarized, or they were taking notes while they were writing and accidentally added that to their works cited page, but they never actually used any of the information in their paper. In the first case, if they did use it but didn't cite it, obviously they would need to go back and add it. If it's the second case and they didn't use it anywhere, but they do have some of the information from their notes, they just need to delete it from this list. But you want to make sure that you check to make sure that you've not plagiarized or included something that you didn't use. All right, so let's talk about some common mistakes that students make. So I'm assuming that this student used Citation Machine to figure out their citation. And number one, they have some APA format mixed in with their MLA format. So I need you to look on your works cited page and see if you see any weird parentheses with dates in them. If that's the case, then you've chosen the wrong thing in Citation Machine, and you need to go back and edit that citation to MLA format. It'll do it for you. There's a drop-down menu at the top of your list that you can choose, and if you get lost, you can email me or come and see me and let me know that you need help. The other thing that this person didn't notice was that Citation Machine said that P to end was the author's name. That's not an author's name. So you have to check if you're using a Citation Machine online to see if it has correctly pulled information from that website. It's just a computer program. It had no idea that it wasn't pulling a person's name. So you have to check to make sure that the things that Citation Machine found, or Easy Beer, or whatever you're using, is correct. Another common mistake is that you will list an author, excuse me, that's not a real person's name or not really a corporation. So look at your authors. If they're not, number one, a person's name that's inverted, like Smith, Gregory, or a recognized group like the U.S. Department of Education, that would be a recognized group, or a specific name of a corporation. Those things are okay to put as the author if they are listed as such on your source. The Schmoop editorial team is not a recognized corporation. They're part of the corporation of Schmoop, I guess, but they're not a corporation as of themselves. So you never want to have staff writer as your author, because those aren't real people's names or corporations. This should just be starting with the title because there is no listed author. Okay, let's see. As a reminder, if you've got those weird parentheses, that means you've used it in APA format by accident, and you need to go back and make sure that the URL address for Citation Machines ends in /MLA8 if you need to do it from scratch. Another really picky mistake that I'll just hit while I'm here is that T's for the and a and an don't count as real first words. So this one should be capitalized by the I because a, and the articles don't count as first words. Okay, so the next thing we need to look at is your punctuation. In your use of citations, there should be absolutely no punctuation here unless you happen to have a quote that ends in a question mark. Otherwise, you should only have one period here and no comma or period here. So scoot back through with a command find and a parentheses. Scoot back through your paper and make sure that punctuation is correct. And then finally, I need you to read back through your paper and do a comparison from your citation to your source page, because it could be that you found all the things here when we were looking and doing our command finds, and you found them in your paper, but as you're reading through, I need you to make sure that you don't have any gobbledygook in your citation that doesn't show up on your works cited page. For example, this citation says the Oxford Dictionary of Philosophy. If that citation was correct, then I would need to go to the O's and find Oxford there. And as you can see, it's not there. So the citation that I would need in this one is collective goods, because you want to make sure that you haven't pulled something random. The last thing that I need to talk to you about would be those random things that you need to check the internet for rules on. If you have 2 or more authors, if you have 3 or more authors. So I have provided you links in our course materials for if you have random examples. I've taken you to the Purdue Wise Owl website. I've linked that in our course materials. You need to check your works cited page for any of those random things, because those have different rules. But this is the basics. So if I went too fast, go back through, pause the video, and check for all of these mistakes in your paper so that you don't lose these easy points. I hope this helps.